another episode of With Sonar. I'm your host, Luke Velasquez, and we are so happy to have you here with us on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I mean, Thanksgiving is tomorrow, and of course, I'm joined by my co-host, Kyle Taylor. Kyle, thank you for joining me. What are you doing tomorrow, by the way?
Oh, what am I doing tomorrow? I am going to be eating an insane amount of turkey. I know you're not a big turkey fan, and you had to ask me yesterday, do people even enjoy eating turkeys?
Okay.
Yeah, if you make it right, if you understand how to cook things. I'm a big sides fan as well. So yeah, it's gonna be a great day. Got some family in town, and we're just gonna eat some turkeys.
What I was saying yesterday, and what Kyle's referring to, is I asked a lot of the folks on the sales team as do we actually really enjoy Thanksgiving food? It wasn't that I don't like Thanksgiving food, it's just we wait all year long for this giant feast. And I feel like if there was this much preparation for a feast, Thanksgiving food is not what I would choose for, like, if I could only have this one time a year. Maybe like a filet mignon or something.
Yeah, maybe. Well, that's neither here nor there. This is Thanksgiving, and we're having Thanksgiving food. But little fun fact for you, because this is something that I wish was still around. So Thanksgiving was originally a 3-day event. Can you imagine having?
It still is.
Is
Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Cyber Monday.
that is the most accurate description of what's to happen. And with that, Segway Kings over here, Cyber Monday, Black Friday, things that we've talked about.
Basically just Black Cyber Week at this point, because a lot of the big retailers are starting their shopping sprees today, actually, and going through, and a lot of them are going online. They're keeping it online. Obviously, we have COVID, and there's a lot of big box retailers. Their online sales have been surging, which we've seen with tender volumes going through the roof. Woohoo! Another segue into Sonar.
There we go. Yeah, and so you had Amazon doing Black Friday type events even a month ago, going into currently what's happening right now. And then, you have all of the big box retailers that you normally go and wait in line. Who's going to wait in line anymore? It's going to be, what's the strategy? How many different screens are you going to put up when you're like, I want to refresh this and make sure that I get my big screen TV for $200?
Exactly. No, you're absolutely right. In fact, if there's any PlayStation 5 or Xbox players out there, they are having their launch. Walmart's actually having a launch at 9 p.m. today to get things back in restock. So I can imagine everybody's going to be refreshing who wants one. Hopefully the app or website does not crash on you.
Nope.
So good luck.
Nope, exactly. And so that's very interesting, because you were, I think, last week trying to find yourself a PlayStation 5.
I was.
And
struck out.
They just did not have the inventory levels, and that. Again, what we're looking at now is just record highs after record highs. Rejection rates at 28%, another record high that we've seen since we've been monitoring tenders, and that just puts things in perspective. Not only do we have Thanksgiving, the natural occurrence of tight capacity, people leaving the market, drivers not wanting to stay out throughout Thanksgiving. Everyone wants to be with their family, and then even this year, which is pretty unique as well, is that a lot of people are already off.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have that capacity secured right now, you're in trouble.
No, you're absolutely right. And we've actually to go into this day, if you've seen us the last couple of weeks, we've had a couple of Sonar guests on, and one this week I'm very excited to have. This is actually the first asset-based carrier that we have had on the show so far this year. So I'm very excited about that. And we're going to learn a lot now. Who we're about to talk to is a little bit different from some of our other carriers. They primarily move a ton of cross-border freight between Mexico and the United States. So without further ado, I'd love to welcome the head of innovation from Zaro Transportation, Kunal Dovedy. Kunal, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Good to be here.
Awesome. And thank you so much for joining us. Not that it matters with the internet. You are tuning in from Monterrey, Mexico. So hopefully everything is wonderful and beautiful down there. But tell us a little bit about, let the folks who are viewing learn a little bit about you. Tell us about the company, what you guys have experienced this year.
Sure. Yeah. So we're what is called a door-to-door transportation company. And what that means is that we actually do cross-border shipments between the U.S. and Mexico, primarily to the port of Laredo. And we pick up a shipment in Mexico, and we'll drop it off somewhere in the United States and do the reverse as well. And we have 250 trucks, about I would say 350 drivers too, and with about 500 trailers circulating in pretty much every major market in the United States and in Mexico.
That's great. That's awesome. So now, Now, are there certain challenges, this year that have happened or popped up? Obviously, we've seen tender volumes in the United States skyrocket. We've seen tender rejections very high around a lot of the border markets there, between some of the different border markets of Texas and Mexico. How has that impacted your operations this year?
Absolutely. So I think the pandemic, of course, is everyone's going to keep talking about it. And I think that was a very interesting phenomenon, because what we saw a massive spike in demand right when the shutdown happened, because everybody wanted to lock in capacity. Everybody wanted to finish shipments before everyone had to shut down. And after that, everything dove down. I think we saw this in the data too. And then things started to pick up. But what was really amazing is as things began to rebuild, we really noticed the entire market reorganizing itself to become far more effective in transportation. And it was actually really great for us to actually have visibility into that information almost in real time, because we could react very quickly. And I think that I would say was a very important key to our success, is just being able to understand the entire situation, being able to react very quickly. And of course, in addition to having data, we also really invest in our teams and help them to take the decisions as autonomously as possible. And that's really important, because they can see the information, understand what's going on, and then make the right call. And so I think coupled with those two things, we were able to really make something good out of what's happening.
Wow, that's phenomenal. And so how did your teams transition to the work from home life, or did you already have a lot of maybe centralized or decentralized platforms that allowed your teams to be able to cooperate with each other so that you can stay in touch? What are some of the things that you guys did initially, and then how does that change to where you're at now?
Well, it's interesting, because when this shutdown happened, I mean, a lot of us already thought, hey, well, this is great. We get to do more work from home, and this legitimizes what we do. Like, I've been working from home, or in a distributed manner for many years. I think many of us in our company have been that way. But when the pandemic happened, it was a very natural transition for many of us. For others, not so much. But overall, what was essential was having really good communication, really good transparency of information available. And luckily, and I think part of our core strategy is really having the right technology platforms and information in place to facilitate that. And I think another thing that's also interesting, since we're an asset-based carrier, is that if you think about it, most of our collaborators, in fact, the folks that we support the most throughout this entire operation are our drivers. And by default, they are distributed, right? So we have to think like that, and we have to work like that. And I think that's what's been really helpful.
Something that I remember, so Kunal, you guys have been a customer for Sonar for about a year now. And I remember when we were first having a conversation, you guys have actually already built out your own TMS system, but more specifically, you guys have built out an app for your drivers to have so that they can access a lot of information in real time, which so your drivers actually have very granular information. Has that worked? Have you been pushing information to your carriers, and has that worked to your advantage, especially during this volatile time?
Oh, absolutely. Everything from, available, available shipments, and helping just facilitate understanding capacity, helping just with the transparency of even on-time performance, that helps massively. And all that stuff is transmitted in real time to our drivers. And I think our vision in the future is actually to start exposing even more information about the markets to them too, and really enabling more direct, how do we shorten that communication gap between the customer and the driver, right? I think that's really a valuable thing.
Yeah, and when companies are talking about driver shortages, and we're seeing that orders for trucks and trailers are skyrocketing right now, almost back to kind of what we saw in 2018 when we had this big surge, highest rate per miles we've really ever seen, and that naturally translates into more orders from carriers, and you start making a lot more profit. You're more profitable now, so you're trying to say, well, maybe I can buy more capacity, and so do you think that type of technology and those things are actually assist with retention, or what other things do you guys think about when trying to retain drivers in a kind of market transition that we're seeing right now?
Well, I really believe it's all about, drivers are people just like us, right? And so how do we help everyone have great relationships with each other, right? And so how do you build trust? How do you build respect? And I think a really important piece of that is transparency of information, right? So when you know the situation, when you can have a conversation on an equal playing field, I think that's really important. Another thing is really getting to know them as people, right? I know it's a very soft thing to talk about, but at the end of the day, that's really what matters more so than anything else, right? Um, Drivers have it tough, right? Some of our drivers they come from Mexico, they head into the U.S. and then they have to find another shipment to come back home. And I mean, sometimes they're stuck out there for days, right? And that's a tough situation. It's a tough situation. It's a tough life to live, right? So anything to make the driver's life easier, I think, is something that'll help with retention.
So since Zaro is a major cross-border player down there in Laredo, so you're getting, obviously you're moving a ton of freight here into a lot of different major markets in the United States. How are you utilizing sonar to optimize those trucks to come back home?
Sure. So I think one thing we've done is we actually are able to understand, what markets are really trending in a positive direction for us to either get capacity for a return trip or at an advantageous rate that we can actually go and pick up a load. So we'll be able to understand, today or maybe 2 days out, where are things trending, and then be able to plan our shipments. Because if you think about it, it's a cycle, right? So um, to understand those southbound or return trips or northbound in Mexico. Well, I guess in the U.S. it's really we've used the Sonar API to basically understand which markets are trending to give us advantageous rates or probability of ship. And I guess to detail that further, we have a couple of reports in real time that are integrated with our systems, and so that way everybody sees it in one place.
Awesome. No, that's phenomenal. And I think that transition also, because we show all our viewers, the user interface that Sonar can bring you some great insights, the charts, the widgets, the maps that we love to view. And knowing that this can also be transformed into some sort of secret sauce so that you can just inject it into your technology is something that not everyone really knows about. And you guys have been able to capitalize on that. And a lot of our customer base is starting to transition more into that technical type side where, I don't want, just like what you said with your drivers, I don't want my users having to look at 5 different screens and have 10 different tabs on each screen, because that just takes a lot of time. And so how do we dissect that into what we're looking at now? And it sounds like that's what you guys have been able to really capture with the Sonar API.
Yeah, I think it's essential, right? Because at the end of the day, that information, everybody understands information differently, right? So if you were to look at a report, and I was to look at a report, and a driver was to look at a report, and one of our CSRs, we'd all glean different information out of it, right? But so if we have the information and we can actually tropicalize, or I guess would say make it customize those views and that information to make it easy to understand for everyone's perspective, that really helps a lot. Another application we're using the Sonar API for is actually for rate quotation. That's massively helpful for the spot market. So when we're looking for return loads, being able to actually understand what's the current market rate or tomorrow's market rate programmatically through an API is great, because we can very quickly secure shipments based on that knowledge.
Wow, that's great. And so, as you're starting to prepare for the end of the year, we all know, if we've been in this freight market long enough, that the beginning of each year always brings this slight softness. What are you starting to prepare your customers for, or your teams for, as we start seeing things like a vaccine starting to potentially take capacity off the road, as we start to teeter into next year? What do you see or foresee from your own customer base and from what you gather from the Sonar data?
Well, this is going to be a very vague answer. This is
Love it. Put you on the spot. What's your forecast?
Yeah, right. So the key for me is really advocating and helping create this environment where we're even more in tune with the information, right? How can we understand what's happening in the market, and how can we understand what's happening within our teams, and being able to react appropriately to it with agility, right, and with grace. I think that is the key, and just having transparent communication in between all the different parties involved. How do we react? We don't know until it comes, right? But I think being even more prepared, focusing on that level of maturity and that and the collaboration and the teamwork. I think that's really the winning strategy for us.
I love that. And Kunal, I think you even said it earlier too. I mean, as we dive into a lot of the sonar data, you've been, being able to help with spot quotes, being able to help with some of the lead times and understanding where those trending markets are. I mean, as you said, Kyle, I mean, we don't really know what the future holds. I mean, it's been such a volatile time, and that's obviously going to continue. Traditionally, we do see softness as the first of the year rolls around and we start to kind of head into that January, February low. We might see that again this year. We might not. But the beauty of it is we can see that lead time. We can see if and when that shift does happen, and hopefully that'll continue to help your team over there, Kunal, and especially as you have that visibility and transparency for your drivers.
I'm usually a little slow at the beginning of the year as well. Thanksgiving, Christmas, I usually have to take off about 10 pounds or so. We'll see. The COVID-15 might come back and hit us if we have another little shutdown here.
Speaking of a little slow, man, I appreciate you coming in today. This was your day off, and you decided to have a nice slow Wednesday, and then I had to bring you back in to
just another day in the office. Giving my all. Growing out a mustache.
We always work from home.
Hey, I have an office at home.
That's true. You do have an office at home.
There we go. Not everyone gets to stay where you're at. If you'd like to tell everyone, if you want a demo, especially from Luke Falaska, go ahead and fill out a demo request form, and this guy will come at you live from his closet. That a baby. My guy loves it.
Hey, okay, I've got two little kids at home, and it's the quietest place in the house, all right? If I'm working from home, gotta have a little quiet. I found that it's my closet. And by the way, I have a very nice big closet. It has a window in it and everything.
That's true.
It's a great closet. If you have to work in a closet, that's
if you get a little chilly, you just grab something right behind you and be able to throw a quick jacket on there. No, that's phenomenal. Productive. Multiple uses.
Yeah, multiple uses. Multiple uses. Exactly.
Got good sound treatment too.
Exactly. Great sound treatment.
Yeah.
No, Kunal, one thing I do want to ask, because I love the fact that you guys have the ability to push some of that transparency and information to your drivers through the app. That's something that I'd love to see more asset carriers do, and it's awesome. I think you guys, you are a 250 truck plus carrier, and I think a lot of times folks think of these massive carriers, right? The Knight Swifts of the world, the JB Hunts of the world, and while they definitely have resources, from what I've seen, you guys are right there, and you're pushing the envelope forward with a lot of your technology, which is exciting. To take it on the other side of the spectrum, what are you guys doing to grow with your customers? Are you having certain conversations with them? Are you certain levels of transparency that you're providing? Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, so definitely that's such an important piece, right? Again, that information, just like with driver retention, it applies the same for customers, because at the end of the day, we're all humans, right? So just allowing for more transparency of information. I think one thing that's been important is and also that transparency of even market conditions, I think, helps a lot. So the more we can have the right conversations about the right kind of pricing based on information, that also helps to firm up the relationships. I would also say that I think the one thing that speaks a lot to customer development is also, again, the relationship that's formed, right? So how much trust are we building between the teams, and the customers? How do they all feel, right? And of course, the financial aspects come into it too. But at the end of the day, if we're all at a certain market rate, what's that extra edge, right? And I think that's really the relationship that's offered.
Yeah, no, that's very exciting. I think too. I mean, Kyle and I, we've been talking to a lot of shippers lately, and a lot of times the conversation that happens is they're obviously they want lower costs, right? They want to be able to save their budget, but they understand that the market's tighten up. And I think so long as you can provide a lot of that transparency, they just want to know what's going on,
Hey,
right?
at the end of the day, they already know their budget's blown. So
Yeah, especially right now.
Right now, so it's not even a question of like, okay, can I get a cheaper price? It's like, all right, I know that we not just, 1.2, 1.5 in some instances our budget from what we planned for 2020,
Yeah.
and then now it's just on-time deliveries. There's actually a comment on LinkedIn that just talked about being sure to get those times and those appointments in place just so that you'll be able to provide that service. And that's really what a lot of the shippers that we're talking to are trying. Just how can we get the toilet paper on the shelves? How can we get prepared for Thanksgiving? Make sure our the consumer is going to be able to purchase our goods, because it doesn't do any good in a truck. So
Yeah.
Right now, we don't have toilet paper shortages. We have PS5 shortages.
actually, there is a little bit of a shortage. I was at Walmart yesterday. It was insane, the parking lot for Thanksgiving shopping, which blows my mind. But yeah.
Hey, Kunal, if you guys, I don't know, if you happen to get a truckload of PS5s or something, just bring them on over to Chattanooga, Tennessee. Deliver them to like a Walmart there. Just let me know when the truck's coming so I can pick one up.
Just let me know the address of your closet. We'll unload them all in there. So
Perfect.
yeah.
I appreciate it. That'll start my side hustle. I'll start selling PS5s out of the closet. Good stuff. We're gonna part ways here in just a minute. Kyle and I, we're gonna close up here on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show with us. Thank you so much for your insight. It's exciting, and I think we're actually gonna try to have you guys and maybe some other folks at Zaro on with us again, probably early next year in January or something. We'll get some more folks here, and that'll actually be a fun time to regroup after this holiday season has happened, and we'll see where we are at the beginning of the year. So hopefully we'll have some new insight there from what you guys are doing.
And before you go, we all know from With Sonar that Luke Falaska has to be one of the slickest guys here. He's very conscious of how he talks and how he presents data. Now, what was the process like walking through the Sonar platform with Luke, and what was some of the things that initially that he was kind of showing you as you guys learned about Sonar that ended up clicking and said, you know what, this is something Luke somehow knows what he's talking about, and this is an avenue we need to go down?
I appreciate it. That's the biggest compliment I think I've ever gotten from you.
Well, okay. Luke, I'm sorry. I'm gonna speak badly about you right now. I'm just kidding. I think it was awesome. So Luke actually came out to Laredo, to our offices in Laredo, and we spent a day just exploring the different benefits. The things that really stood out to us were, one, that there's a possibility of using an API, right? I think a lot of the other data out there, it's very closed off in the dashboards, and we really wanted to do more with information from outside and inside, and make something work with that. And the possibility of the API was great. The other thing that was really important was how fresh that information was, right? So yesterday's information, right? That's phenomenal. There was also at the time when we signed up, we didn't have the rate tools, but the rate tools were coming online, and that was something we were also interested in. And even before that, just to understand where the markets were moving, right? That also was very valuable. So market volume, head haul, and tender reject, those three dimensions were something that seemed very important to us.
Awesome. Kunal, thank you so much again for your time. We're gonna say goodbye. Kyle and I are gonna stay on here and close the show up here for the last 5 minutes. But thank you again for folks viewing. If you have questions or if you need some freight moved, send a message over here to Kunal, of the head of innovation for Zaro Transportation.
You got cross-border. This is exactly where you need.
Got cross-border. They got freight. They got trucks all over the U.S. too. So even if you need help moving stuff around, let them know. They're fantastic. Kunal, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Luke. Thanks, Kyle.
Not a problem.
He is right. I went over there when I was visiting those folks, and they're sharp. They're smart guys. They know what they're doing.
And I think that's really you talk about differentiating yourself, but how do you, one, retain your drivers, especially for it's different than being a broker. It's obvious. The obvious differences between being asset versus non-asset, but how do we retain our drivers? How do we also put our dispatchers, or even if we have the brokerage division, how do we give them that information? And I think that is just broken down to a T of how you can incorporate information. And it's not just the Sonar data.
Right.
It's how can we better communicate with the drivers?
Yeah.
How can we streamline these processes? And so, you know, that's exactly what they're doing, and hats off to them.
Absolutely. I love the fact that they've built the app for their drivers, and they can push some of this information so that way they know, like their drivers know, like, okay, the folks in dispatch, like, they're taking care of us. Like, they're looking at these market trends. This is why they're sending me here.
Also gives the drivers more of a feel like they made the decision.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're given your option, I mean, even some of you got Hunt 360, you got all these different apps that a lot of the big carriers are using, so that the driver can just feel like they're in the driver's seat. And they can just choose what they want. That was it. That one was a good one. Hadn't had a good pun in a while, guys. We're back.
Gracious.
We're back here.
Alrighty.
Oh man, but tell me a little bit about the freight markets. What do we got? The poultry belt. All the turkeys are getting chopped up.
Hey man, like, you know, I mean, Arkansas tender rejections are through the roof.
Yeah, let's throw that bad boy up on a screen.
All right, hey, flash it. Probably could have picked a better adjective. Okay, so yeah, this right here, map of the United States. These are real-time tender rejections, just no change. This is as of this morning.
So that's just freight being rejected.
It's just freight being rejected. The reason I pulled this up, I mean, you could see how high. I mean, yeah, look at this. Just from Arkansas all the way up. I mean, again, you know, I'm always going to throw Bismarck, North Dakota under the bus.
Bismarck, North Dakota.
By the way, if there ever is somebody from Bismarck, North Dakota watching, I apologize. I have nothing against Bismarck. I've never been to North Dakota.
Listen,
you know, one day I'll get there and I'll
appreciate
pay my tribute.
Right, we really thoroughly appreciate the 0.005% market share up in Bismarck, North Dakota. There's value everywhere.
Oh, it's that high? It's gone up. Okay. No, sorry, I got to stop. But seriously, no, I mean, tender rejection. I mean, you're sitting. I mean, a lot of these markets here are all like over, 48% in Joplin, 50% in Little Rock. I mean, it goes up 55% in Tulsa, so on and so forth. New Orleans, right down here. I mean, look, we were just looking at a lot of cross-border. Laredo's not as hot right now, but it's still around 15%. But El Paso is over 34%. So a lot of tightness here, and really, that's just shipping out of Laredo. They're technically coming from. Most of their trucks come from Mexico, and then they go all the way through Laredo. So they actually, unlike a lot of carriers, cross-border carriers, they actually drive all the way through into the United States. They'll deliver to Chicago, they'll deliver to Atlanta, they'll deliver to LA, they'll all over the place. And then they'll work their way back. And they don't always come straight back to Laredo. Sometimes they have a truck in Chicago and they have to make a pit stop somewhere else. Maybe they're coming to Tennessee, maybe they're going to Oklahoma.
Have you ever done any cross-border freight?
Not for Mexico, but I have for Canada. I actually used one of my, my second biggest customer was a Canadian company.
Okay, yeah, I'm pretty ignorant with the cross-border community, so I'm always curious. Do they have to, in order for them to haul loads in the U.S., like pick up in the U.S. and deliver in the U.S., is there any dynamic between like whatever? Because I know in Canada you have to pick up, if you're coming down, you have to pick up and then you have to deliver in Canada.
Exactly right. So yeah, the way it was with Canada and the U.S., if you had a United States, MC number, right, or the Canadian equivalent, right?
Yep.
If I was, say, if I was the United States MC, I could take a load from Chicago to Toronto, right?
Yeah.
But then I would if I want to take a load back, it had to be a one pick from Canada to come back. Now there are some carriers that have MCs in both Canada and the United States.
Right.
I don't know the official rule with Mexico and the United States. It might be a similar rule. If it is, then they might have to have.
Funny story though. So one of the first loads that I had to give back as a broker was actually a cross-border from Canada. Did not realize that, okay, well I could just go find a truck. No, you have to find a Canadian truck because I was picking up in the United States and delivering in Canada. And of all places, Florida. So I was going from Florida to Canada. So it was
long miles.
It was gave that thing back real quick. Said nope, sorry, can't do that anymore.
Long miles. Well, good stuff. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. Of course, folks, if you want to learn more about sonar, let us know. Leave a comment below. Myself or Kyle will be happy to have a conversation with you. And in the meantime, have a fantastic Thanksgiving. We will see you next Wednesday live at 4 p.m. Have a fantastic rest of your day.